Welcome, welcome. And today we have a very special one. Today we're going to talk about the very last stage of development, but also the first stage of what happens when we're in the full cycle of our journey, right? Because oftentimes, as we grow in our growth journeys, one might ask, like, what's the end? What's the process? What's the whole point of the goal? And especially when you do it a lot and you've done a lot of reflecting and growing and working, it can be very easy to think, well, what's the point? What's the goal? Especially if you keep accomplishing goals, what's the whole point? And the idea today is we want to talk about what it means to be a master of two worlds. And it really comes down to this question: am I creating, and what am I creating? That's really what it is. And basically, how you answer this question is going to be the biggest indicator of how you're doing, right? So if you're not creating at all, well, that's the biggest indicator that you're probably still on your journey. You're working through a lot of resistance and you're stuck. And that's essentially why we go through the whole hero's journey, right? Starting from the call to adventure, starting from the ordinary world, the call to adventure, all the way around. Because we're trying to get to the place where we're creating, and then we're getting to the place where we're doing, what am I creating? And then we get to the know where we're doing it with purpose and with vision. There is no perfection. That's another thing that we really want to drop, because this idea of perfection will keep you from creating always. And so that will be your primary block in this journey. And so a lot of what we're doing, and you become a master of the two worlds, is dropping perfection and living with purpose and vision, so that you know, what am I creating? So let's talk about what it means to be the master of two worlds, right? Because essentially, when you're the master of two worlds, when we start doing the hero's journey, the idea is that we are going within, right? So we have the two worlds. Ooh, let's do this nice little confluence. So we have the two worlds here. We'll take this, we'll call this the inner world, which is where our thoughts, our dreams, our desires all exist, right? The vision that we're trying to bring to life. Then obviously we have the outer world, which is, where we live, where we have to deal with people, where we have to deal with economies, taking care of our bodies, all the difficulties of, staying alive in the modern life. And here, this confluence, this meeting place, is where our identity fragments. Because I imagine these two worlds like gears that are rotating. Outer world. And these two worlds are rotating. And it's only as we step in and learn to fully integrate that middle, this middle part, that we begin to have creation, right? Because if we sit only within the inner world, or the inner world, we become stuck in overthinking and inactive. But then if we get stuck in the outer world, well, we just become a bot, and we start being just, at best, mere producers, but we're not really creating anything with vision and purpose. And so this is where we have to, I say identity fragments, but actually it's the opposite has actually happened. It's where fragments become parent, because the identity is always fragmented when it's in these two parts. It actually, here, the better word is the identity integrates. And when it integrates, it begins to become one, right? You become a master of two worlds. And the idea is that we want to get these inner worlds and the outer world together. Pretty simple stuff. And so, but when we get stuck in things like perfection, get stuck on things like, now results are important. It's important to get adhere to results. But remember, results are very much reflected in the outer world. And so if we get results, but they're not in concert with the process, we oftentimes can find that empty. And that's why a lot of times you'll find people will go, they'll chase down a goal, they'll get it, and they'll ultimately feel empty because they were over here stepping their awareness in the outer world where they were producing, but they weren't actually creating because there's no vision or purpose behind it, right? So here, there's no vision or purpose, because that all resides within the inner world, right? The inner world is where the vision and purpose is. But here, within the inner world, there's no resistance. Or you could just put it, there's no feedback. There's plenty of resistance. But when I say resistance, it means that there's nothing to push against. There's no actual material, right? You can't create within the world of imagination exclusively. We have to take that imagination and bring it to the middle and the inner world. And that's basically it. Just wanted to today, the biggest thing I wanted to emphasize is this idea that when we create, we do so with a purpose, and that we need feedback from our inner world to our outer world. And that this is not driven by results, nor a process, nor a perfection, but by pure creation, which is just basically being in flow and living within the process. And this is what we work towards getting to the end. But that's the goal as we move through it. Obviously, as you're working through your journey, it doesn't just come there. So depending on where you're at in your journey, this might not necessarily be your experience, but know that this is what you look forward to. Because at the highest ends of the scale, enlightenment and love are what illuminate our experience at the highest levels. And that's what we look forward to. And this is when our inner world and our outer world, when our world supports our viewpoint, that's when we stepped into our world. And then we're just on that journey of creation. We're living as we are, living with our purpose, living with our vision. And that's just the beginning of the starting place, right? That's the beginning of when we step into our journey into the higher levels. Anyway, just wanted to share that today. A little bit of a simple lesson, but I hope that as well. If you guys need help and support integrating these principles, let me know. I have a link down below. We have a wait list to help people understand these principles more, taking your story and combining it and putting it together with fundamental, purposeful teachings. Hope all is well. Stay happy, stay healthy. Peace.